Okay, so I am going to walk you guys through how to get started with your design presentations on PowerPoint. This program is extremely robust and there's a lot of kind of finessing that you can do to make your presentations look even more professional. This is just a basic walkthrough of how we like to use it. One of the greatest things about PowerPoint is that it is either free or very inexpensive to use, pretty user-friendly. A lot of people know how to use it. So we will get started. So you are going to start by creating your room. So depending on the type of mood board you're going to do, you can do 3D perspectives, you can do just a 2D mood board, which is totally fine too, but I'm going to show you how to do the 3D one. So you're going to want to start by creating your shapes. And this all has to do with perspective and knowing perspective and how when you're looking at a room, how things line up, how they match up. So this is going to be our wall that we're looking back on. Then you are going to want to select a different shape in order to create your, we're going to spin it all the way around, your walls. And it takes a little bit of time to adjust. You're going to want to adjust multiple times, but it's really important to get the base of your room set up just how you want it so that you're able to get your perspective as accurate as possible, because that's what we're always trying to do, is get our ideas on paper as accurately as possible. So sometimes these work really great for very basic rooms. If there's some rooms with a lot of jut outs or architectural elements to it, it gets a little bit trickier to do the perspective. It can be done, it just takes a little bit more time. So you just kind of have to be patient with it. And then we're going to finish this off by putting our ceiling on. Some people don't include ceiling. We always include ceiling because, you know, there's a ceiling. You're going to adjust. And again, it takes a bit of time to kind of finick with it. And so there you have your room. So we're also going to add a window by copying and pasting. It is a lot of copying and pasting when you are in PowerPoint, but we are going to add a window, and you try and do things to scale as best as you can. So some of the places, some programs have the grid lines, some don't. We have the grid lines. They work fantastically. So we're going to do that. We are going to also add some trim onto our window. And again, the more detail you add, the more realistic it looks. So you can leave it at just a simple casing, but we're going to go a step further and add a back banding to our casing. Again, just add those little details that really pull it together and make it look more realistic. Of course, you can always use like a 3D rendering program. Those can be extremely costly and they can take just a long time. So we just find using these programs, it translates our ideas, our designs, and our thoughts super effectively with our clients, and they are able to understand exactly what we are trying to say to them. And that is the whole point. Sometimes we can add, if we wanted to do like a window with mullions, then we could add boxes in here and fit them like so. And you know, we can do that, and then you could do that the whole way. We're going to leave it empty because it just takes a little bit of time. So then once you have your room, we always import our floor next, so you can bring your floor in, just a photo of a floor. It depends on what you're using, but for this, we're going to use a very simple flooring. Sometimes if you have an external program that can change the angles of the flooring, that's really wonderful. This program unfortunately has that limitation, so we're going to import it and then we are going to crop it to a shape. A lot of people don't know these tools exist, but we're going to show you they exist. So for this one, we're going to crop it to shape. If you want to be super realistic with your flooring, you can pick the exact floor. You can pick something that looks very similar. You can also pick one with the grain, depending on what way the grain goes. If your clients you find are just incredibly visual people, sometimes it's super helpful to the client to kind of picture their room. So right now we're just doing a little living room setup. After that, we can add, again, some more details, which would include baseboard, any casing, and just add all of your details in there that you need in your room. So absolutely, we're going to do baseboard for sure. And you know what? We are going to, there we go. So see, it just kind of starts to make the presentation look more realistic. We're going to add some lines in here. We're going to always make the weights nice and skinny and thin so they're crisp lines. And it just takes a bit of fussing with, but once you get the hang of it, it can be so incredibly quick to use to just even just to draft up really quick ideas. We absolutely love it for that. So see, just adds more, and then the beauty of it, it's a copy and paste. We're going to bring it over. Now we are going to double click or right click, and then you can group them so that it becomes a group, it stays together, and then we can do a little flip so that we don't have to go through the whole process of like redrawing them and scaling them again. There we go. Perfect. And obviously with these, you can also make shapes and manipulate the size of the shapes if you need your baseboard to be a different color than your walls, that type of thing. So now that we have our room, we can show you, we're going to bring in our color palette. So say we are using this color palette, we are going to do, and obviously we're going to click and select all of our walls, not that wall. We're going to do this. We're going to go to our shape fill colors. We are going to go more fill. We want to select our own. So we're going to click the eyedropper. And I think we should do this room maybe dove white. We'll see what that looks like. Sometimes it can be very green on your computer. Okay, not horrible. It's like a creamy white. That's okay. We can live with that. But we're definitely going to do the ceiling. We can go dove white, but we're going to go more fill, and we're just going to lighten it up a little bit more. Even, you know what, we'll use frosting on the ceiling. Well, that didn't really change it much. You never want to use like a stark white color because that's when it starts to look unrealistic. So you can import and copy and paste any of your colors that you're using in here and then just eyedrop them and make it the same color, which is fantastic. Obviously, the colors do not show up the same way as they do in real life, so you do have to preface that to your client and make sure that they understand. It will look a little bit different on here, but they are able to get a really good idea of what it'll look like. So we are gonna just take that out and we're going to just do the last wall. We'll include the casing in this one and we'll include the baseboard. We'll do a little color drench situation. Well, now we just lost. So this is also, this program's all about layering. So we are going to have to layer. So we're going to bring this window pane to the front. We are going to pick it, make it a different color. All these colors are changed on here. Maybe we'll do, I'd love to have a nice kind of bluey gray color too. Well, it's not so window-esque. Somewhere in this gray, that's a little bit teal. We'll leave that for now. You can also create a gradient on yours, and there you go. So now your window looks more like a window, and we're going to move it off to the side. And we're going to put our casing back. And sometimes it's easier just to have no fill on these when you're overlapping them, so that it stays the same color. So we're going to put this back. There. Now we have our window. And it looks pretty realistic. I think now we can dress our window. Anytime we are sourcing, we kind of just go with our hearts and dump everything in, but for the purpose of the tutorial, we are going to just show you kind of a systematic approach. So we have some fabric, it's already in the shape of some drapery, so we are just going to layer those on the window, manipulate them so they make sense, pull them down, push them up, try and give a good representation of what we are showing our clients. And we're going to put them on the other side. And you can always use your drapery that you're actually going to use. A lot of the time when you make it really small, it just kind of gets a little bit cluttered in here. So we just use a line and stick it there. Do it in the finish that you're going to. Make it a bit thicker, and then we'll bring these to the front like you would a typical drape. Like we said, not perfect, but it does a really good job of just kind of giving your ideas life. Now we are gonna go and grab our rug here. Here's our rug. This is where we can manipulate the piece and we can crop it. Unfortunately, because we can't change the angles of it, we would love to put it into a perspective, but we are not able to do that. So we are going to make it smaller and down here. There we go. And you can always leave it just as a square if you are comfortable with that, or you can make it bigger. It depends on the way it'll crop, but we can crop it to a shape. Do the same thing that we did with our walls. Crop it to a shape, bring it down so that it just has a bit more of a realistic look. Bring it to the edges, like how a typical rug would sit on your floor. There we go. Perfect. Now we are going to import our sofa. Now this is the kind of cool and interesting part, is using our remove background tool. This is a tool that not many people know about, but it is a fantastic tool to use. We are going to mark the areas that we need to remove, which would be down here. We are not going to want that center style on there because we do not like that. It does not look very cute. And we're just going to clean up the sofa. If you use a Mac and you have access to Keynote, a really fantastic idea is to bring your images into Keynote first, and it does a really good job of doing really crisp lines. This, although it does a good job, not perfect, and it sometimes leaves some lines that aren't so straight, but that's okay. We can deal with that. So we are going to keep those changes, and look at that. You have no background distracting your clients from what they are looking at. We are going to place our sofa right in front of the window. It's starting to come together. Now you're going to do that for all of your other pieces in your design. Next, we have our coffee table. We are going to remove the background. We are going to keep this area of the coffee table. Obviously, with straight edges, it does a better job of keeping them really clean. Also, sometimes you can crop it and just make sure those lines are just really slick, straight, just like that. And again, trying to keep with the scale of the room and the scale of the furniture. You also have to just, use your own discretion of sizing. So we picked a little bit of a longer sectional, so we're just going to make it a bit bigger, and this is more of how it's going to fit in the room than it was before. Perfect. We can add our chairs. The chairs are always interesting You can do different perspectives, obviously, of the chairs. If we're wanting our client to see more of the front of the chair, we can use a perspective like this one. If we want the client to really get an idea of the look that they're going to be looking at, we can use the side of the chair, or because if these chairs are going to be sitting in front, you can also use the back of the chair. I don't love using the back of the chair, although if it has cool details, it's kind of nice to show a little picture off to the side. But I would prefer to use this chair because it shows more, you get a better front view, and it doesn't really interfere with anything else in this space. So we're going to make it bigger again, and we are going to remove the background. We are going to keep, whoopsie, sometimes you go a little far. Gotta retrace your steps here. And you can, you can whip these up pretty quickly, or you can really take your time with them. I mean, the longer you take on them and the more detail you add, the more realistic they look, like I said. So we're going to shrink this down, and we are going to place that and make sure, it's not sitting here, although it's nice in this location, it's sitting half on the baseboard. So we're going to just want to make it sit in the spot that it would probably sit in. And if you had like a little coffee table, you could place it there. I don't have that today, so we're just gonna flip, and we're gonna place one on each side. Perfect. Now we are gonna bring in our pillows. Same thing here. You're gonna wanna bring in your accessories once you get your main furniture in. We're gonna ditch all the background on this, but we want to keep all of it. Like I said before, Keynote is very smart when it comes to what to take out, what to leave. So Keynote is a really great resource to use. So we're going to just place our pillows like so on the sofa, adding some dimension to our presentation. Bring in a nice brown one. The darker and more crisp the lines are on your product you're trying to delete, the easier it is for them to identify what to take away and what to keep. Okay, keep those changes. We'll make this small again. And then just, arrange them how you typically would in your presentation. Maybe you don't love the dark one in front. Maybe we want our lighter ones in front, like that. And we'll bring them to the front, reorder them. Once you're kind of happy with how it looks, which I think like that side, we are just going to, again, we'll do a quick copy and paste, and we will flip our items. And we will bring this one over here. Perfect. So you already can see the room is just like absolutely coming together pretty quickly. And then we are going to just add a couple more accessories. This is not super necessary, but I always find it really just allows the client to see their space. We are going to take some books. We're going to keep the bottom one. You don't need to keep all of them. Again, we are going to keep, and then we are going to crop so that we have just the ones that we want, and they're crisp, clean. We can make them a bit smaller. Make sure the books kind of match the theme of the room. Make sure they're not kind of something random. Bring in a vase here. And a really great tip would be to have a file, like presentation file on PowerPoint with just a bunch of accessories, especially if you do not source your accessories at the same time and you do accessorizing at the end. It's fantastic to have everything with a deleted background, and you have like 10, 15 vases that you really like, because it can be really strenuous trying to find vases that you like that are on like a good angle, that type of thing. So sometimes I find it really helpful to just already have those in a file waiting for you. And then obviously your greenery is super important to have some beautiful life pieces in the room. So you're going to add the greenery. And you know what? Greenery can be a bit tricky to deal with deleting the background, but you do the best that you can because, again, looks as realistic as possible. And it's okay, you can always go back over it and fix your steps that you missed. Doesn't have to be perfect. And keep in mind when you're choosing your greenery online and you see something that's like really complex, you may opt to choose something a bit different in order for it to be easier. And then you can just delete these white parts again. Sometimes it grabs a bit of green. That's okay. We're just going to try and get as much of that white, stark white area at least as we can. That's pretty much what we're going to be doing. I think that's okay. And because we have a light background, it's not going to show up like a ton, as you can see. So we're going to just crop off the bottom of this here. Place it. And usually these don't just have one piece of foliage in it. So we are also going to copy it, throw it on a different angle, flip it just so it looks different on the other side. There we go. Perfect. That looks great. And then, whoopsie, we're going to add our bowl. Make this guy little. We can place it maybe on top of the books. Yeah, perfect. And like I said, you can absolutely add more pillows to here, maybe some ottomans in the front. If you have pieces that you have to kind of create custom, you can use any of these shapes and import fabrics onto them. So if you have a custom circular ottoman or square ottoman, you can absolutely do that. You can add your paint details. Of course, a beautiful chandelier piece of lighting can be awesome. Anything that can really help pull the space together. And then once you're done with that, you're done with your room. I like to highlight the whole thing, and you are going to group the entire room. And when you manipulate it, you are going to click shift so it stays, and you can make it smaller, bigger, so that you're able to move it and then put a title, your title block, and then all of the pieces sourced, any fabric information on the side. That just pulls the presentation together and gives your clients as much information as possible when you're doing it. I hope this was helpful and starting you off being creative with PowerPoint. Again, it's a huge program, has so many powerful things you can do with it. You just have to finesse it, take time, and just keep working with it.